The envelope trembles in Adam's weathered hands as he sits at the kitchen table, Bridget's empty chair across from him. 6 months a widower, and still he sets her place at dinner. The return address, his brother Leander's, shouldn't cause this tightness in his chest. Adam's fingers fumble with the seal, revealing an invitation to his nephew's first birthday. The card falls open, exposing a handwritten note. Lucas misses his mother. Mother. Adam's coffee goes cold as the room spins. Bridget's favorite mug, the one he can't bear to put away, catches a tear that slides down his nose. Has betrayal ever stolen your breath like this? Share your story below, like if this pierces your heart, follow to see how Adam fights for his wife's memory. His throat closes around a sob as he stares at the family photo on the wall. 40 years of marriage, and now this impossible claim threatens everything they built together. The late afternoon light filtered through lace curtains Bridget had sewn in their first year of marriage, casting long shadows across Adam's study. 6 months a widower, and still her presence lingered in every corner. Adam's weathered hands trembled slightly as he set Leander's birthday invitation for little Lucas on the desk beside Bridget's calendar. Something wasn't right. The party date conflicted with what Bridget had written in her meticulous hand, a doctor's appointment she'd never miss. Odd, he murmured, the word hanging in the empty room. The grandfather clock from Bridget's family ticked hollowly in the hallway, marking time that now moved both too quickly and too slowly without her. Adam's fingers traced over her handwriting, the familiar loops and curves bringing a tightness to his throat. He remembered driving her to that final appointment, her hand gripping his as the doctor delivered the news that would take her from him months later. Not possible. Adam pushed himself up from the desk, the floorboards creaking beneath him, the same sound that once announced his arrival home to Bridget's welcoming smile. He moved to the filing cabinet with practiced steps, each drawer labeled in his precise handwriting. 40 years as a legal clerk had made organization second nature. Some call it fussing, he'd told Bridget once. Being prepared, she'd corrected with that knowing smile. The medical folder felt cool against his fingertips. He hesitated before opening it, as if breaching her privacy even now. Inside, yellowed with age but clear in purpose, lay the documentation of Bridget's sterilization procedure from decades earlier. A necessary surgery after complications that had denied them children of their own. Adam's legs suddenly felt weak. He sank into Bridget's reading chair, the leather still shaped to her form. A tear slipped down his cheek, landing on the medical record. He hastily wiped at the moisture, careful not to smudge the ink. More tears followed, as the impossible nature of Leander's claim crystallized in his mind. She couldn't have, he whispered, voice breaking. Lucas can't be hers. His gaze drifted to their wedding photo on the side table. 40 years of trust, love, and honesty stared back at him. Adam clutched the frame to his chest, shoulders beginning to shake with silent sobs. The scent of Bridget's gardenia perfume seemed to rise from the chair, mixing with the dying herbs in the window box she'd lovingly tended. Through tear-blurred vision, Adam noticed his reflection in the window. A man diminished by grief, now faced with defending his wife's memory when she couldn't defend herself. Another wave of emotion crashed over him, but something else stirred beneath the surface. Suspicion. Why would Leander make such an outrageous claim? What could he possibly gain by suggesting Lucas was Bridget's child? The house, perhaps? Their modest savings. Adam's mind, still sharp after years of reviewing legal documents for inconsistencies, began piecing together possibilities. The telephone rang, startling him from his thoughts. He made no move to answer it, Martha probably calling about carpooling to the party. How could he face a celebration built on a lie about Bridget? The ringing stopped. Silence settled once more, broken only by the persistent ticking of the clock and Adam's gradually steadying breath. He carefully returned the wedding photo to its place, fingers lingering on Bridget's smiling face. He would protect her memory, her reputation, their life together. A soft knock at the front door echoed through the empty house. Adam wiped his eyes with his handkerchief, straightened his shoulders, and rose from the chair. Morning light streamed harshly through the bedroom window, catching dust motes dancing above Bridget's untouched dresser. Adam stood before the bathroom mirror, noticing new lines grief had etched around his eyes. 6 months without her felt both like yesterday and forever. The birthday party invitation lay on the counter beside him, a reminder of the day ahead. A day he now approached with dread rather than mere sorrow. Just get through it, he told his reflection, the bags under his eyes betraying a night spent tossing between anger and disbelief. Adam opened the closet door, releasing the faint scent of Bridget's perfume still clinging to her clothes. He couldn't bear to remove them yet. His fingers lingered on the sleeve of her blue cardigan before moving to select a suit. Lucas's first birthday deserved his best appearance. Even if the celebration now carried a shadow, he found Bridget's favorite tie, the one with tiny blue flowers she'd given him on their 35th anniversary. His fingers fumbled with the knot once, twice, 3 times. She had always tied it for him. "Damn," he muttered, finally achieving a crooked approximation of her perfect knots. The phone rang as he was searching the vanity drawer for his cufflinks. Martha, no doubt checking their carpooling arrangements. "Good morning, Martha," he answered, working to keep his voice steady. "How are you holding up, Adam?" Her familiar voice carried the weight of 40 years' friendship with both him and Bridget. "I'm just not sleeping well," he replied, the half-truth catching in his throat. "Should I tell her? Not yet. Need proof first." "I'll pick you up at 11, Martha said. "We can stop for coffee on the way." Adam thanked her and hung up, returning to the search for his cufflinks. His hand brushed against something unexpected in the drawer, the corner of Bridget's personal journal. He hesitated, a moral debate playing across his features. She'd always kept her journal private, but now, heart pounding, he gently lifted the leather-bound book. The weight of it in his hands felt like both betrayal and necessity. He opened it to a random page from about a year ago, recognizing Bridget's delicate handwriting immediately. Leander stopped by again today while Adam was at his volunteer work. More questions about our finances, our will. Something feels off about his interest. Told him our arrangements are private. Don't want to worry Adam, but... The entry ended there. Adam flipped to the next page, finding it torn out at the binding. His legal clerk's mind immediately registered the significance. Deliberate removal of information. "What didn't you want me to see, Bridget?" he whispered, running his finger along the jagged edge where the page had been ripped away. Or, what didn't someone want me to find? The doorbell's chime startled him. Adam quickly returned the journal to the drawer, guilt and curiosity warring within him. He glanced at his watch. Martha was early, a full hour before their agreed time. Something about the timing raised the hairs on the back of his neck. He straightened his crooked tie in the mirror, noting how his hands had steadied with purpose. The confused widower of yesterday was giving way to something else, a defender gathering ammunition. Adam descended the stairs carefully, each creak of the old wood a familiar note in the house they'd shared for decades. The silhouette visible through the frosted glass of the front door wasn't Martha's. It was Leander's. The drive to the birthday party stretched Adam's nerves thin. Martha's hand rested supportively on his arm as they walked up the flower-lined path to Leander's suburban home. Balloons tied to the mailbox danced in the breeze, cheerful messengers for what Adam now knew would be anything but a celebration. "You're awfully quiet," Martha noted, her eyes shrewd behind her glasses. "Leander's visit upset you?" Adam nodded slightly. He wanted to make sure I was bringing Bridget's photo album. "For Lucas to see his mother," he said. The words tasted bitter. He hadn't corrected Leander, hadn't revealed his knowledge, not yet. First, he needed to understand the full scope of the deception. Children's laughter spilled from the open door as they approached. Inside, the house bustled with family members Adam hadn't seen since Bridget's funeral. Conversations paused as he entered, resuming a beat too quickly when eyes met his. The weight of their glances, some sympathetic, others calculating, pressed against his shoulders. "Adam, glad you made it." Leander approached with Lucas balanced on his hip, the boy's chubby hands reaching for the brightly wrapped gift in Adam's hands. "Look, Lucas, it's your Uncle Adam." Uncle, not grandfather. The distinction wasn't lost on Adam. "He's gotten big," Adam managed, his throat tight as he studied the child's features. Lucas had Leander's chin, his mother's eyes, whoever she was. Nothing of Bridget. Martha squeezed his arm before drifting toward the kitchen to help with preparations, leaving Adam to navigate the room alone. He placed his gift on the table with the others and found a quiet corner to observe. Leander moved through the crowd with unusual attentiveness, checking his phone repeatedly, glancing Adam's way with practiced casualness. Adam catalogued the faces around him, who seemed genuinely happy to see him, who avoided his gaze, who watched with curious eyes. Family politics had never been his strength. Bridget had been the one to maintain those connections. Now he wished he'd paid more attention. "Time for cake," someone called. The guests gathered around the dining table where Lucas sat in a high chair, a tiny crown perched on his dark curls. The boy babbled happily, unaware of the undercurrents swimming beneath the surface of the celebration. Candles flickered on the cake, casting dancing shadows across eager faces. Lucas's eyes widened at the tiny flame. Cameras clicked. Someone started singing. As the song ended, Leander clinked a spoon against his glass. The room quieted. "Before we cut the cake, I wanted to thank everyone for coming to celebrate Lucas's first birthday." Leander's voice carried the practiced tone of a prepared speech. "This day means more than you know, especially since his mother couldn't be here." Adam's fingers tightened around the edge of the table. "Some of you may not know," Leander continued, his eyes finding Adam's across the room, "but before Bridget passed away, she wanted to ensure her son would be provided for." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Adam. "Her son?" someone whispered. Leander pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. "I have here legal documentation confirming that Lucas is Bridget's biological son, and my legal documents to claim half ownership of her estate, including the house valued at $800,000 as his guardian." Adam felt the room spin slightly. Martha appeared at his side, her hand steadying his arm. The buzzing in his ears nearly drowned out Leander's next words. "I didn't want to do this publicly, Adam, but you've been avoiding my calls. This is for Lucas's future, what Bridget wanted." Adam stared at his brother, at the confident set of his shoulders, at the legal papers extended toward him like a weapon. Behind Leander, Lucas slapped his hands happily in a glob of frosting, oblivious to how his father was using him. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed once, the sound cutting through the shocked silence. Adam gripped the table edge for support, his knuckles white against the dark wood. The betrayal was complete now, public, calculated. There would be no going back. Rain pelted the windshield as Adam drove home from the party, matching the storm raging inside him. Twice he had to pull over, his vision blurred by tears of rage and disbelief. The legal papers Leander had thrust into his hands lay on the passenger seat. Photocopies of what appeared to be a birth certificate, a hastily drafted will, and letters allegedly in Bridget's handwriting. Forgeries. They had to be. The wipers slashed back and forth in rhythm with his ragged breathing. She couldn't have. She wouldn't have. Not his Bridget, who'd shared every joy and sorrow for 40 years. "Damn you, Leander," he whispered, pounding the steering wheel with his palm. By the time Adam reached home, the rain had intensified to a downpour. He slammed the front door behind him, the force knocking a wedding photograph from the wall. The glass cracked as it hit the floor, a jagged line right between him and Bridget. For a moment, he stood frozen, staring at the symbolic fracture. Then something inside him shifted. The paralysis of shock gave way to focused anger. Adam moved with sudden purpose toward his study, leaving wet footprints across the hardwood floors. Papers flew as he yanked open filing cabinet drawers, muttering to himself as he searched. Medical records. Where did I file them? Under B for Bridget? M for medical? Damn it! His usual meticulous organization faltered under pressure until he remembered S for surgeries. He pulled the folder, fingers trembling as he spread the contents across his desk. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the documents before him. Hospital admission forms, consent papers, doctor's notes. And there, the surgical report detailing Bridget's sterilization procedure after complications from an infection in her 30s. The date was clear, the doctor's signature unmistakable. Nearly 30 years before Lucas was born. Impossible, Adam breathed, a sob of vindication catching in his throat. He read further, finding the doctor's follow-up notes. Patient understands procedure is permanent. Discussed adoption options with patient and husband. And in a later entry, patient mentions brother-in-law's inappropriate questions about procedure. Advised patient to maintain clear boundaries. Adam's head snapped up. Brother-in-law, Leander. Even then, he'd been prying, looking for weaknesses, points of exploitation. Thunder cracked outside as Adam gathered the medical documents, sorting them chronologically, building his case. The methodical legal clerk emerged through his grief, creating order from chaos. He found Bridget's medical release forms, insurance claims, even a letter from her to her doctor expressing gratitude for compassionate care during a difficult time. The grandfather clock struck 9 as Adam sat back in his chair, surveying the evidence before him. Incontrovertible proof that Bridget could not possibly be Lucas's biological mother. Relief washed over him, followed by a fresh wave of fury at Leander's calculated deception. He reached for the phone to call Kelly. His daughter would know what to do. Her legal background would be invaluable now. His finger hesitated over the buttons. What if she didn't believe him? What if Leander had already spoken to her? Adam set the phone down and returned to the documents, finding a business card clipped to Bridget's last appointment notes. Dr. Eleanor Peterson, still practicing. According to the hospital website, he checked on their aging computer. He would need allies. People who knew Bridget, who could verify her medical history. Dr. Peterson, Martha. Eventually, Kelly, once he had enough evidence to overcome any doubts Leander might have planted. Adam organized the medical records into a folder, his hands now steady with purpose. He moved to his desk drawer, pulling out a legal pad. In his precise handwriting, he began listing facts, inconsistencies, and questions. Why now? What was Leander's true motivation? How had he created such convincing forgeries? The phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. The caller ID showed Martha's number. "Adam? Are you all right? You left so suddenly." Her concerned voice filled the line. "I'm fine," he said automatically, then corrected himself. "No, I'm not fine. Martha, I need to show you something. It's about Bridget, about what Leander is claiming." "I never believed it for a second," Martha replied firmly. "Bridget would have told me if she'd had a child. We shared everything." Adam felt a surge of gratitude for her unwavering loyalty. "Can you come by tomorrow? There's more to this than just a lie about Lucas." "First thing in the morning," she promised. After hanging up, Adam noticed the answering machine blinking with new messages. He pressed play, listening as neighbors' voices filled the room, each expressing concern and sympathy about the news of Bridget's secret. Word was spreading rapidly. The last message made him freeze. "Dad, it's Kelly. Uncle Leander called me. We need to talk. Call me back, please." Adam sank into his chair, medical records clutched to his chest. A strange sound escaped him, half sob, half laugh of determination. The evidence was on his side. The truth was on his side. Now he just needed his family to see it. Outside, the storm began to subside, rain tapping more gently against the windows. Adam looked at Bridget's photograph on his desk, her smile as warm and true as it had always been. "I won't let him tarnish what we had," he promised her. "Not our marriage, not your memory, not our home." A flash of lightning illuminated a note in Bridget's medical file he hadn't noticed before. Mention of a safety deposit box at First National Bank. Something else she'd kept, something Leander might not know about. Adam carefully marked the page. Tomorrow after Kelly, he would visit the bank. The pieces were coming together, but he sensed the real battle was just beginning. Adam parked in front of Kelly's upscale apartment building, rehearsing his explanation one last time. The medical records folder sat on the passenger seat beside him, irrefutable evidence that would surely convince his daughter. He checked his reflection in the rearview mirror, straightening his tie and trying to smooth the worry lines from his forehead. Kelly had always responded better to calm logic than emotional appeals. The sleek lobby, with its modern artwork and polished surfaces, felt worlds away from the warm clutter of the home he'd shared with Bridget. Adam announced himself to the concierge, who directed him to the 11th floor with a sympathetic smile that made his stomach tighten. Had everyone heard Leander's claims already? Kelly opened her door before he could knock, her professional demeanor momentarily softening at the sight of him. "Dad?" she said, embracing him briefly. "Come in." Her apartment reflected her life as a corporate attorney. Minimalist furnishings, glass and chrome surfaces, walls adorned with degrees and awards rather than family photos. Adam had always felt slightly out of place here, but never more so than today. "Coffee?" she offered, already moving toward her high-end espresso machine. "Please," Adam replied, though his stomach churned at the thought. He settled onto her pristine white sofa, medical folder held carefully on his lap. Kelly returned with 2 sleek mugs, placing them on glass coasters before sitting across from him in a leather armchair, legs crossed, professional even in casual weekend attire. "I spoke with Uncle Leander yesterday," she began, studying his face. "He's concerned about you, Dad." Adam's fingers tightened around the folder. "Is he? That's rich, considering what he's trying to do." Kelly sighed, a sound that reminded him painfully of Bridget when she was gathering patience. "He said you didn't take the news well about Lucas, about Mom." "News?" Adam couldn't keep the edge from his voice. "Kelly, What he's claiming is impossible. Your mother couldn't have children after her surgery. You know this. People keep secrets, Dad, Kelly said gently, even from those closest to them, especially when they're afraid of hurting them. The implication that Bridget might have hidden a pregnancy, a child, from him cut deeper than anything Leander had said at the party. She wouldn't have kept something like that from me, Adam insisted, opening the folder. Look at these medical records. Her sterilization was complete, irreversible. Lucas was born just last year. The timeline is impossible. Kelly glanced at the papers without taking them, her expression softening to something that looked distressingly like pity. Dad, grief can make us defensive. It can make us deny things that are painful to accept. This isn't denial, Adam said, pushing the papers toward her. This is medical fact. Bridget physically could not have been Lucas's mother. Leander has a birth certificate, Kelly countered, and letters in Mom's handwriting asking him to raise Lucas until she could find a way to tell you. Forgeries, Adam insisted, his voice rising despite his best intentions. Kelly, you have a legal background. Look at these records. Compare the dates. It's physically impossible. Kelly sighed again, setting her coffee down untouched. Dad, I'm worried about you. We all are. These past months have been incredibly hard, and now this. Maybe you should talk to someone professional. The suggestion that he needed psychological help rather than legal support struck Adam like a physical blow. His own daughter thought he was delusional, unstable with grief. Leander warned me you might react this way, Kelly continued, her tone shifting to one she might use with a difficult client. He said you might try to discredit him, even produce documents. He's not angry, Dad. He just wants what's best for Lucas, what Mom wanted. Adam stared at his daughter, seeing a stranger across from him. You believe him? Without even looking at the evidence? I think grief is clouding your judgment, Kelly said, standing to signal the conversation was concluding. Take some time. Think about what Mom would want. Lucas deserves to know his heritage, to have what's rightfully his. Adam gathered the untouched medical records, his hands trembling with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. Your mother would want the truth, he said quietly. She valued honesty above all else. You used to as well. Kelly walked him to the door, her professional mask slipping just enough to reveal genuine concern. Get some rest, Dad. We can talk again when you're feeling more clear-headed. The soft click of her apartment door closing felt like a vault ceiling. Adam stood in the hallway, medical folder clutched to his chest, more alone than he'd felt since Bridget's funeral. The drive home passed in a blur of city streets and traffic lights. Adam barely registered the journey until he was sitting in his driveway, engine off, staring at the house he and Bridget had filled with 40 years of memories. The home Leander now wanted to claim half of, using a child as his proxy. Inside, the answering machine blinked with new messages. Adam hit play as he set his keys on the counter, listening to the voices of neighbors, acquaintances, even their old church pastor, all expressing variations of surprise, sympathy, and thinly veiled curiosity about Bridget's secret, and the poor little boy who'd lost his mother before knowing her. The community they'd been part of for decades was already accepting Leander's lie as truth. Adam moved to the kitchen, mechanically filling the kettle for tea. The mug he selected was Bridget's favorite, chipped at the rim from years of use, painted with forget-me-nots that had faded with countless washings. He sat at the kitchen table, the tea growing cold before him, medical records spread out uselessly across the surface. Darkness fell. He hadn't bothered to turn on the lights. The emptiness of the house pressed in around him, no longer just missing Bridget, but now missing Kelly too. The isolation felt complete. Family doubting him, community gossiping about him, his wife's memory being rewritten by a calculated lie. For the first time since discovering Leander's scheme, Adam felt truly defeated. A sob rose in his throat, one he didn't bother to suppress in the empty kitchen. What good was evidence when no one would look at it? What good was truth when lies were more believable? Has family ever doubted your word when you needed them most? Share your heartbreak below, like if this pierces your soul, follow to see how Adam finds strength when everything seems lost. The ringing of the doorbell startled him from his despair. Adam made no move to answer it. Another well-meaning neighbor with casseroles and thinly veiled questions, no doubt. The ringing continued, insistent, followed by firm knocking. Then a familiar voice called through the mail slot. "Adam Wright, I know you're in there. Open this door before I use the key Bridget gave me years ago, Martha." Yeah, her determined voice cut through the darkness like a beacon. Adam rose slowly from the kitchen table, wiping tears from his face with the back of his hand. He moved toward the door, each step feeling heavier than the last, but moving forward nonetheless. Martha stood on the porch with a covered casserole dish and determination etched in the lines of her face. She took one look at Adam's tear-streaked face and pushed past him into the darkened house. "Sitting in the dark, not answering your phone," she muttered, heading straight for the kitchen. "When's the last time you ate something proper?" Adam followed, watching as she flicked on lights, set down her dish, and put the kettle on with the efficiency of someone who knew his kitchen almost as well as he did. In the sudden brightness, he felt exposed, vulnerable. "I went to see Kelly," he said, his voice rough from crying. Martha turned, studying him with shrewd eyes. "And she didn't believe you." It wasn't a question. Adam sank into a kitchen chair, the weight of the day pressing down on his shoulders. "She thinks grief has made me delusional, that I'm in denial about Bridget having a child with someone else." His voice cracked on the last words. Martha snorted derisively. "That girl needs to use the brain her mother gave her." She set a fresh cup of tea in front of Adam, the steam rising between them. "I got a text from her this morning asking if I'd noticed any concerning behavior from you lately." Adam closed his eyes briefly. "What did you tell her?" "I told her the only concerning behavior I've seen is from her uncle," Martha said firmly. "Bridget shared everything with me, Adam. Everything, including her suspicions about Leander." Adam's head snapped up. "What suspicions?" Martha sat across from him, her garden-roughened hands curling around her own teacup. "Bridget noticed things. Leander asking about your finances, showing up when you weren't home, making odd comments about your will. She didn't want to worry you, but she told me to keep an eye on him if anything happened to her." "I found her journal," Adam admitted. "There was an entry about Leander asking about our finances, but the next page had been torn out." Martha nodded grimly. "Someone's been in your house." "The medical records weren't enough for Kelly," Adam said, gesturing to the papers still spread across the table. "She wouldn't even look at them." "Then we need more evidence," Martha said simply. "Have you gone through all of Bridget's things?" Adam shook his head. "I couldn't. It was too painful." Martha's expression softened. "I understand, but now it's necessary, not just for you, but for Bridget. She'd hate what Leander is doing to her memory." Together they moved to the bedroom, where Bridget's belongings remained largely untouched since her death. Adam stood in the doorway watching as Martha opened the closet with gentle reverence. Where would she hide something important, Martha wondered aloud, running her hands along the shelves. "She kept her jewelry box on the vanity," Adam said, pointing to the ornate wooden box his father had made for Bridget as a wedding gift. Martha brought it to the bed, setting it down carefully. Bridget mentioned this had a secret compartment. Your father built it specially. Adam stared at the familiar box. I never knew that. Men rarely notice such things, Martha said with a small smile. She pressed a hidden catch on the side of the box, and a false bottom slid open, revealing a velvet-lined compartment beneath. Adam's breath caught. Inside lay a leather journal, different from the one he'd found earlier, a small key, and an envelope of photographs. Her private journal, Martha said softly. She kept one for daily thoughts, and this one for things she didn't want found accidentally. Adam reached for it, then hesitated, his hands trembling. I can't. Would you? Martha nodded, understanding his struggle between need and respect for Bridget's privacy. She opened the journal, adjusting her reading glasses as she began to scan the pages. Oh my, she murmured after a few moments. Listen to this. Leander came by again today while Adam was volunteering, asked pointed questions about our will, our savings, seemed particularly interested in the house value. When I mentioned it would all go to Kelly, he became agitated, said family should support family. Something feels very wrong about his interest. I've put copies of our important documents in the safety deposit box, just in case. Adam felt a chill. There was a mention of a safety deposit box in her medical file. The key must be for that. Martha turned more pages, her expression darkening. There's more. Leander introduced his new girlfriend today, much younger, pregnant already. He seemed more interested in showing her our house than introducing her properly. Made comments about how this would be a perfect family home. Didn't like when I mentioned we'd promised it to Kelly eventually. Lucas's mother, Adam said quietly. She wasn't at the party. I assumed they'd separated. According to this, they did, Martha confirmed, continuing to read. Leander called, sounding desperate. Girlfriend left him, taking most of his money. He asked for a loan again. When I refused, he became threatening, hinting he knew things that could hurt Adam. I don't know what he means, but I've documented everything in case. Adam paced the room, pieces falling into place. He's desperate for money. The house is worth $800,000. If Lucas were legally considered Bridget's child, he'd have claim to half her estate as the boy's father, Martha finished. Despicable, using an innocent child this way. She set down the journal and picked up the envelope of photographs. Look at these. Adam took them, rifling through images of Bridget in Switzerland, time-stamped during the months Leander now claimed she was pregnant with Lucas. In one, she stood beside a mountain lake, holding up a newspaper with a clearly visible date. She knew, he whispered in realization. Somehow, she suspected Leander might try something like this after she was gone. She was leaving evidence. Bridget was always 3 steps ahead, Martha said with sad fondness. She told me once, if anything happens to me, make sure Adam checks the safety deposit box before making any decisions. Adam felt tears forming again, but different from the desperate sobs of earlier. These were tears of validation, of connection to Bridget's foresight. We need to go to the bank tomorrow, he said, his voice steadying with purpose. And I've contacted Eleanor, Martha added. Dr. Peterson. She's retired now, but remembers Bridget clearly. She's willing to provide a formal statement about the sterilization procedure and its permanence. Adam looked at his wife's oldest friend with profound gratitude. You believed me without question. Of course I did, Martha said simply. I knew Bridget. I know you. And I've always thought Leander was a snake in the grass. Adam managed a small smile, the first in what felt like days. Thank you. Martha patted his hand, then returned to the journal. There's more we should read. Bridget documented several occasions when Leander's behavior concerned her. As the evening deepened, they pieced together the extent of Leander's financial troubles: failed business ventures, gambling debts, a luxury lifestyle he couldn't afford. The picture of a desperate man emerged, one who saw his brother's house as a solution to his problems. "I need to call Kelly again," Adam said as they finished. "Show her all of this. Give her time," Martha advised. "Sometimes people need to discover the truth themselves. We'll gather everything, build an irrefutable case. The bank, Dr. Peterson, these journals and photos. Leander won't know what hit him." Adam carefully returned the journal to the secret compartment, but kept out the photos and key. For the first time since the birthday party, he felt hope stirring. Bridget had known, perhaps not exactly what Leander would do, but that he was capable of something underhanded. Even in death, she was protecting their life together. "You should eat something," Martha said, rising. "That casserole won't heat itself." As they moved back toward the kitchen, Adam felt the weight on his shoulders lighten slightly. He wasn't alone in this fight. He had Martha's unwavering support, Bridget's careful documentation, and the truth on his side. The phone rang just as they reached the kitchen. Adam hesitated, then answered on the third ring. "Dad?" Kelly's voice sounded strained. "I've been going through some old photo albums, looking for pictures of Mom to show Lucas, and I found something strange." Adam's eyes met Martha's across the kitchen. "What did you find?" he asked carefully. "Pictures of Mom in Switzerland, during the time Uncle Leander says she was pregnant with Lucas." Kelly's voice wavered. "Dad, I think we need to talk again. I think I might have been wrong." Martha smiled and mouthed silently. Bridget's daughter, through and through. Adam closed his eyes briefly in relief. "Yes, Kelly, we definitely need to talk. There's a lot more you need to see." Adam's dining room table, unused since Bridget's death, now served as command central. Medical records, journal entries, and photographs were arranged in meticulous chronological order, building an irrefutable timeline. The safety deposit box had yielded exactly what they'd hoped: notarized copies of Bridget's medical history and a letter detailing her concerns about Leander's increasingly desperate financial situation. "Dr. Peterson will email her formal statement this afternoon," Martha said, checking her phone. "She remembers Bridget's case clearly, says the procedure made pregnancy physically impossible." Adam nodded, adjusting his glasses as he labeled another folder. With each piece of evidence, his posture straightened a little more. The defeated widower was fading, replaced by the methodical legal clerk who'd spent decades ensuring documents told the truth. The doorbell rang. Martha squeezed his shoulder before going to answer it. Moments later, Kelly appeared in the dining room doorway, uncertainty written across her face. "Dad," she began, her professional composure cracking, "I found more photographs. Mom couldn't possibly have been pregnant when Uncle Leander claims." Adam gestured to the chair beside him. "There's more, Kelly. Much more." For the next hour, he and Martha walked Kelly through the evidence: medical records, journal entries, bank statements showing Leander's mounting debts, and the notarized letter Bridget had left. "I should have listened to you first," Kelly said finally, tears welling in her eyes. "Instead of him. I'm so sorry, Dad." Adam embraced his daughter, both crying quietly. "Your mother always said you needed to see evidence for yourself. You're a lawyer. You rely on facts." "She also said I was too quick to judge," Kelly admitted, wiping her eyes. "I found something else you should see." She pulled out her phone, showing Adam a real estate listing. Uncle Leander has already contacted an agent about selling his portion of this house. The listing goes live next week." Adam's jaw tightened. He's not wasting any time. "We need to act quickly," Martha said. "I've made some calls. The neighbors who left those awful messages, they're coming around." Harold Jenkins remembers Bridget talking about her surgery years ago. Once people hear both sides, they're questioning Leander's story. Adam looked at the evidence they'd gathered, irrefutable proof of Leander's deception. A plan was forming in his mind, one that would expose the truth while protecting Lucas, an innocent pawn in his father's scheme. "We'll confront him here," Adam decided, voice steady. "With Dr. Peterson on speakerphone, Martha and Kelly as witnesses. We'll present everything at once, give him no room to maneuver." Kelly nodded, attorney mode engaging. "I'll draft a cease and desist letter. We should also prepare a formal complaint of attempted fraud." "We need to think about Lucas," Adam added softly. "None of this is his fault." Kelly squeezed her father's hand. "Mom would be proud of you for remembering that." The phone rang. Dr. Peterson calling with additional information about Bridget's medical history. As Adam answered, his back straightened further, purpose returning to his voice. The transformation was remarkable, from broken widower to determined defender of truth in just days. "Has someone tried to rewrite your truth? Comment your moment of strength, like for courage. Follow for the confrontation where wisdom finally triumphs. Will Adam's evidence be enough?" "Tomorrow," Adam said after hanging up. "We'll invite him over tomorrow." Martha nodded approvingly. "Bridget always said you were at your best when protecting what matters." Adam looked at the wedding photo, now returned to its place on the wall, glass replaced. "She protected us even after she was gone. Now it's my turn to protect her memory." Kelly and Martha exchanged glances, recognizing the quiet determination in his voice. Leander had no idea what was coming. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Adam's living room as the grandfather clock struck 3. Everything was in place, evidence arranged on the coffee table. Dr. Peterson on speakerphone, Martha and Kelly seated on either side of Adam like sentinels. The doorbell rang precisely on time. "Ready?" Kelly asked, squeezing her father's hand. Adam nodded, his expression calm but resolute. "Ready." Martha opened the door to Leander, who entered with Lucas balanced on his hip. The toddler clutched a stuffed dinosaur, oblivious to the tension filling the room. "Family meeting, Adam." Touching. Leander's confident smile faltered slightly at the sight of Kelly. "I didn't expect you to be here." "Sit down, Leander," Adam said, gesturing to the armchair across from them. Leander settled Lucas on the floor with his toys before taking the seat, his eyes darting to the documents spread before him. "What's all this?" "Evidence," Adam replied simply. He lifted Bridget's medical records. Starting with documentation of Bridget's complete sterilization procedure 30 years ago, making it physically impossible for her to be Lucas's biological mother. "Medical records can be," Leander began. "Dr. Peterson is on the line," Adam continued, gesturing to the phone. "Bridget's surgeon, who has provided a sworn statement confirming the procedure's permanence." "Good afternoon, Mr. Wright." Dr. Peterson's crisp voice came through the speaker. "I remember your wife's case clearly. The procedure rendered her permanently unable to conceive." Color drained from Leander's face. "There are explanations." "Next," Adam continued methodically. "Bridget's journal documenting your financial inquiries, your girlfriend's pregnancy, and your requests for loans, she denied." He slid the journal forward. "Note the dates, all during the period you now claim she was secretly pregnant." Leander's eyes narrowed. "You're twisting things. These photographs," Kelly interjected, spreading vacation images across the table, "show Mom in Switzerland during the months you claim she was pregnant with Lucas. Note the newspaper she's holding, confirming the dates." "And finally," Adam said, producing a notarized letter, "Bridget's own words, describing her concerns about your financial desperation and possible intentions toward our estate, legally witnessed and dated 3 months before her death." Leander stared at the mounting evidence, his confident facade crumbling. He glanced at Lucas, playing innocently nearby, then back at the stern faces surrounding him. "You don't understand," he finally said, voice barely audible. "I'm facing bankruptcy. The gambling debts, failed investments, they'll take everything. Lucas will have nothing." "So you decided to take what was ours instead?" Martha asked sharply. "I never thought it would go this far," Leander admitted, shoulders sagging. "Just a small claim at first, enough to cover the worst debts. But then I saw the house value had increased, and the story just grew." "You forged documents," Kelly stated flatly, "created a false birth certificate, attempted to defraud my father and tarnish my mother's memory." Leander's eyes dropped to his hands. "The eviction notice comes next week. We'll have nowhere to go." Adam watched his brother's defeat, feeling a complex mixture of vindication and unexpected compassion. He looked at Lucas, innocent and undeserving of suffering for his father's mistakes. "The forgeries and false claims end now," Adam said firmly. "The public record will be corrected. Bridget's memory will remain untarnished." Leander nodded, broken. "As for Lucas," Adam continued, voice softening slightly as he watched the boy stack blocks on his carpet, "we will discuss arrangements that ensure his well-being while holding you accountable." The grandfather clock chimed the half-hour, its sound filling the room. Outside, clouds parted, sending a shaft of sunlight across Bridget's photograph on the mantel, watching over the proceedings, justice being served in her name. Truth had prevailed, just as Adam had known it would. But the path forward would require wisdom as well as justice. Spring sunshine bathed Bridget's garden in golden light as neighbors and family gathered for the memorial tree planting. 6 months after her death, the community had come together not to gossip, but to honor her memory, now cleared of Leander's false claims. Adam knelt beside the prepared soil, his knees protesting but his heart steady. In his hands he held a young cherry sapling, Bridget's favorite. The same hands that had trembled with grief and rage weeks earlier now moved with purpose, gently placing the tree's roots into the earth she had loved tending. "Bridget always said, 'Gardens are for the future,'" Adam said, his voice carrying across the gathered faces. "You plant not just for yourself, but for those who come after." As he packed soil around the sapling, Adam glanced at Lucas, playing on a blanket nearby, supervised by Kelly. The boy's innocent laughter provided a counterpoint to the solemnity of the occasion. Adam had spent many nights contemplating what Bridget would have wanted. Justice, certainly, but not vengeance. Especially not at the expense of a child. Martha stepped forward, adding water to the freshly planted tree. "To new beginnings," she said, squeezing Adam's shoulder. After the last shovelful of soil was patted into place, the group moved to the patio where refreshments waited. Adam found himself approached by Harold Jenkins, the neighbor whose gossiping voicemail had once deepened his isolation. "I owe you an apology, Adam," Harold said, genuine remorse in his eyes. "I should have come to you directly instead of spreading rumors." "We all make mistakes, Harold," Adam replied, finding forgiveness easier than he'd expected. "What matters is setting things right." Across the garden, Leander stood somewhat apart from the others, discomfort evident in his posture. The public apology he'd made moments earlier had clearly cost him, but it was a necessary part of the agreement Adam had proposed. The week following the confrontation had been a flurry of legal discussions. With Kelly's guidance, Adam had crafted a solution balancing justice with compassion, a trust fund for Lucas's education and future needs, conditional housing support for Leander while he attended financial counseling and therapy, and a public clearing of Bridget's name. "He looks lost," Martha observed, following Adam's gaze to Leander. "He is," Adam said. "Pride's a difficult thing to lose." "Some might say you've been too generous," Martha noted. Adam watched Lucas toddling toward a butterfly. The boy deserves stability, and Bridget always believed in second chances, with proper accountability. The legal documents had been signed yesterday, Leander relinquishing all claims to Bridget's estate, agreeing to counseling, and accepting supervised visitation terms that would gradually ease if he demonstrated responsibility. In return, Adam had established the trust for Lucas and arranged temporary housing in a property Kelly managed. "It's not forgiveness exactly," Adam had explained to Kelly. "It's boundaries with consequences." As the gathering began to disperse, Adam found himself alone by the newly planted tree. He gently touched a tender branch, imagining how it would grow over the years, how it would blossom each spring in Bridget's memory. I think we got it right, Bridget," he whispered. Later, after everyone had gone, Adam sat in his study sorting through photographs. He selected a small frame from Bridget's desk and placed a picture of Lucas in it. The boy deserved a place in their family, just not through lies and deception. He set the frame beside Bridget's photo, a visual representation of the boundaries and connections he'd established. Moving to his desk, Adam opened a drawer containing legal papers, his updated will. With Kelly's help, he had revised it to include the trust provisions for Lucas while preserving their original intentions for their estate. It felt right, balancing protection of what he and Bridget had built with compassion for an innocent child. The grandfather clock chimed in the hallway, its familiar sound no longer an echo of emptiness but a continuation of life. Adam closed the drawer and walked to the porch, settling into the swing where he and Bridget had spent countless evenings. The gentle creaking as he set it in motion was comforting now rather than painful. The wounds hadn't healed completely, perhaps they never would, but Adam had found his way forward. Through tears and trials, he had protected Bridget's memory and their shared legacy while creating a path for healing. In doing so, he had reclaimed not just his home, but his sense of self, his connection to community, and his family bonds. As dusk fell, Adam watched fireflies begin to rise from Bridget's garden. The newly planted tree stood as a testament to growth after loss, to wisdom overcoming deception, to life continuing with both remembrance and renewal. Have you ever sat at a kitchen table in the fading light, a photograph in your hands, tears blurring the faces of those you love? If you've lived long enough to have gray at your temples, you know that moment, when betrayal crashes into your carefully built world. Like Adam finding that impossible claim about Bridget, you've felt the floor drop away beneath you, leaving nothing but the free fall of disbelief. We spend decades building our lives, creating homes, nurturing relationships, gathering evidence of our existence in filing cabinets and photo albums. Then, in an instant, someone's lie can threaten to rewrite everything we've lived. The medical records Adam kept, the careful organization that younger folks sometimes teased him about, these weren't just habits. They were armor he didn't know he'd need until the battle came. Your meticulous ways aren't fussy. their wisdom wrapped in routine, waiting for the day they'll protect what matters most. There's something especially cruel about having your word doubted when silver touches your hair, as if the years that should have earned you respect somehow diminish your credibility instead. When Kelly couldn't bring herself to look at those medical records, didn't that sting feel familiar? That moment when younger eyes look at you with concern rather than confidence. The painful irony of aging, gaining wisdom while the world seems to trust it less. But here's what I know for certain, friends. In the quiet moments after tears dry, resilience rises like the morning sun. Not dramatic, just inevitable. The same hands that shook with grief steady themselves with purpose. The voice that cracked with disbelief finds its authority again. When Adam arranged those photographs across his dining room table, creating order from chaos, he wasn't just building a case, he was reclaiming his rightful place as keeper of his own truth. The porch swing where you sit in evenings, watching stars emerge one by one, it's seen your tears and your triumphs. Like Adam planting that memorial tree in Bridget's garden, you've learned that healing doesn't erase the scars. It simply creates new growth around them. The boundaries you've drawn after betrayal aren't walls to keep others out, but gardens marked with care. Here is where trust can grow again, properly tended. Your story, like Adam's, isn't finished when the tears dry. It simply turns another page to where wisdom stands triumphant, and dignity, hard-won, tear-stained dignity, blooms once more in the garden of your life.